This is a review of the 5 megapixel digital watchdog Vandal, part number DWC-MVA5WiAT. This 5 megapixel camera has a resolution of 1920 by 1080. This camera is the IVA model. It has onboard analytics for those items on the left column. Here's what is inside the box. It comes with mounting screws and template, quick setup guide, Allen wrench for the locking screws, an Ethernet cable waterproof cap. Let's take a look at the camera a little closer now. First off, we have an Ethernet cable and an external power cable. This will run off of PoE, power over Ethernet. In case that's not available, you can use an external power supply. We also have a provided Allen wrench. There's some lock screws here. This one, when it's tightened down, prevents the camera from rotating this direction. We have another lock screw here that prevents the camera from rotating this way when it's tightened down. If we take a look at the back, we have two mounting screw locations. We have the serial number, you have the MAC address of the camera. There's a little notch for the cable. This is the wall mounting bracket if you're going to mount this on an exterior wall. The wall mount bracket comes with the manual, screws, mounting equipment, Allen wrench, comes with the gasket and a hole template. One thing I don't like about this camera with this mount, there's a notch here for the cable if you're not using this bracket. But when you are using this bracket, you can see there's a little hole there, and you'd have to use some silicone to keep flies and other bugs and water out of this hole. I didn't see anything that comes to plug that hole, so you just got to remember to put some silicone over that hole right there. So if we mount that on the wall, you can rotate this side to side, up and down. We lock that locking screw there, this locking screw here, and we're set. Let's take a look at the digital watchdog Vandal 5 megapixel IP camera. I have it pulled up here on this web page. Let's go ahead and look at some of the specs. Let's go ahead and go to the camera's IP address, take a look. This is a scene that we're looking at right now through this camera. Now we can zoom, clicking here. So we zoom in and then we wait. It will go ahead and detect that we've stopped zooming and it will do an autofocus. Now if you noticed, it zoomed back out. And I didn't want it to do that, so let's try zooming again. Now this time it is focusing while I am zooming. Now it's doing an autofocus. Okay, that's much better. Let's go into the setup. First things are the video, H.264 or H.265, whichever you prefer. You can change its resolution. You You can put an on-screen display text if you would like, a description of what the camera is looking at, and you can put a timestamp on if your recording software does not provide that. Region of interest you can define. Say OK to that. Privacy mask, if we want to mask out something, we can say on. Put a mask there, and that won't ever record, or it'll just gray out that area. Image adjustments, we can change the saturation of the image, brightness, contrast, all kinds of things to make it more true to life. For example, if I turn the saturation way up and hit save, everything is overly saturated, so let's pull that back down to where it was. Say OK. Exposure. Auto exposure is usually great for me. Day and night settings are auto. Unless you always want it to stay in day mode, which is color, then you can set it that way. Black and white settings. White balance. Image enhancement. Video enhancement. Of course, in the United States for 60 Hertz. Network settings. Status. Put in your network configuration that you need. On-BIF settings. Plug and play. DNS. FTP if you'd like this to take images and FTP them to a location. SMTP if you need to have it email events or recordings to you. And then if you're monitoring it, we have lots of different things. RTSP if you're streaming to some other streaming service. Trigger action, action rules. Okay, if we want to add something, a new action, we could FTP it or mail it or do something to a web server. And then we could transfer an image. Event rules, we could add an event. The event is motion detection or temperature is critical, whatever it may be. Motion, if you'd like to set motion areas. If there's motion in a certain area, you can set that. Set your temperature, thresholds. Here's the analytics. This is an IVA, not an IVA Plus, but it still has quite a few capabilities. So we could set a rule, add one of these rules, set them. You could do counters if you want to add a counter. Set calibration. Classification, if it's a person, vehicle, clutter, group of people, lots of things that you can set. And set notifications. Tamper detection. Object tracking. Licensing. IP address filter configuration, which would not allow certain people to get into it, or the general public, just your management network. .802.1x, you can set different things there. Web services, certificates, if you have a certificate that you need to join your enterprise level network, then you can do that. Auto lock system. Here's the system information, which shows the model name right here. The resolution. System diagnostics can tell you a lot of things that's going on. And then you can back up your configuration. That could be handy if you're setting up lots of cameras. Firmware updates. check in, get the firmware that you need, update it, date and time, set your time zone. So this can run more standalone if you need it, or if you're tying it into another system, you may need that as well. Daylight savings, I like user management because if you need someone to be able to view it, you can set up a viewer user, and then they would only have access to view this camera, and they cannot come and change all the settings, but they can have access to view it, which was great and for someone that's needing access. Logs, if you're checking logs, factory reset, restart if you need to. Here's all the open source information and plugins. All right, that is a basic overview of this camera. I like this camera. For the most part, it has everything that you would need. I like the autofocus. It does a better job than I can do when I do a manual focus. Change the zoom back out to a wider view. Now I'll wait for it. It will detect that it's changed, and then it'll start its autofocus. Any second now. And if it doesn't, you click manual, and then click auto, and it will start. Okay, that looks great. I like this camera. If you need a 5 megapixel camera, let's see how it looks at night. This camera has good IR range up to about 38 feet where my tree is. You can just see me walking past. I switched the camera to day mode. Now you can see me walking on the sidewalk on the other side of the street. There's a trade-off with some fine details, but you can see much further away. If I turn on my porch light, the image is excellent for color at night. This would be the best case scenario if you can use day mode with some exterior light source. There are some video artifacts as you see me walking on the street. Not bad for two 60-watt light bulbs. In summary, I like that this camera has PoE or DC power options. I like the overall design. It's easy to aim and set up. It's got good mounting system for walls with a wall mount bracket. I don't like the cable notch that is not covered when you combine it with the wall mount. I do really like the enterprise level features for network and security. The basic analytics are there and sufficient for what we need. I like the alerts and notification options. It has nice autofocus, and manual focus is hard to set up. Zooming can be problematic at times. I do like the motorized zoom from 2.7 to 15.5. Now for the image quality summary. This camera has good wide dynamic range for the light and dark areas during the day. It's good for fast motion and high frame rates. It does really well in low light with IR up to about 40 feet. I like how it performs with low light in day mode, which gives us color. There are some video artifacts, but overall it performs a lot better than most cameras that I've worked with in the past. I like the flat glass lens cover for outdoor use, so it's a great outdoor camera. So for around $500, you can have a great outdoor or indoor camera, and I like this camera. Thanks for watching.